Hey, are you a bass player? Let's be honest, aren't you tired of feeling like you're in the same place while everybody else around you is progressing? I have a solution. Trust me, I understand where you're coming from. Years ago, I used to deal with the same thing as it related to my playing. You see, over the years, I've developed a lot of different bass riffs and bass licks. And I've been able to put them in a course and to show you exactly how I do them. I'm not going to hold it all to myself. I'm going to show you exactly what it is I'm doing so you can keep up with the competition. So if you're interested in improving and actually becoming the bass player you always dreamed of, check out the Riffs and Licks library. Good morning, and welcome. Welcome back to Grooves and Motivation. I'm Jermaine Morgan. Give a few of y'all time to wake up and get with me here. Be sure, for the ones that are already here live with me, be sure to let me know where you're watching from this morning. Let me adjust this camera so you can see the head of this bass a little bit. Jonathan, good morning to you, man. There we go. There we go. Now you can see it a little better. Good morning to you. Danny Bass, good morning to you, sir. See if we can get a groove going here this morning. See if we can get a groove going. Who is it? Floppy. Cameroon is in the building. Danny Bass, I see you. Yes, it's Tuesday here. Sunny Southampton. Great to see you. Yes, sir. Thank you, Floppy, for joining in. Anthony, good morning to you. Australia, Newcastle, Australia is in the building. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. All right. So let's see here. Do I have sound? Bass Boy 22, good morning to you. God bless you, sir. Dumsani from the Kingdom of Eswatini. If I'm saying that, Eswatini, Watini, I know I'm butchering it. Africa, I got you. Got you. There we go. Bonjour. Ronaldo, good morning to you. Let's see, I might go with the microphone here. Morning, mama. Get a better bass in here. I don't like that. A little too thin. Floppy says, listening while sat in the car at the British Motorboat Show. Sadly, only working, not buying. Gotcha. All good. One day. Raymond. This is afternoon, morning, everyone. Cape Town, South Africa is in the building. I'm not sure. Ronaldo, I'm not sure what you're saying. I don't quite understand the language there. I know it's something good, though, so good morning to you. Miss J, good morning to you. Tiffany, good morning. MJ2, good morning to you. Thank you, Miss J. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it, man. Not Version and French. No, I'm American. I think that's what you're asking me, Ronaldo. We're just seeing where it go for now. Thanks, Floppy. I really hope y'all listening on headphones or in your car. At least that way you can feel the low end. You can feel the groove. Thanks, Ronaldo. Let's do it again. Getting us a good melody. That wasn't it. Let's do it again. Might be. Not yet. One more. Give me one more. I'm not landing on what I want to get this morning. Let's try that. Creating. Yeah, we was gonna get there in a minute. Sometimes you gotta play around, see what works. Everything don't work. What is the nature of this groove? Feel good. That's the best I can tell you. Yeah, that's the best I can tell you, Ronaldo. Just feel good. Headphones on, tone of that bass and groove is so good. Thank you, Miss J. I appreciate it. Anthony, good morning, man. Burundi, I see you. She says, yep, slide with it. Absolutely. All right, now that we got a little playful melody, let's play around with it. All right, for the people that are wondering, so this groove is in like E flat minor or F sharp major. I'm tuned half a step down with this particular bass. So that's my E flat. Oh, let me stop it. So that's my E flat, open E flat, because of the way this bass is tuned. If I played it on a standard, of course it'll be here, with it being a 4-string. This bass is strung up like a 4-string with the added note, added B at the bottom. And normally this would be the B string. So essentially it's like a 4-string with the added B, or you can think of it like a 6-string bass without the low B string. You can think of it that way. But yeah, that would be my low E flat. So that groove is, so I'm going 6, 7, 3 to the 4. So I'm thinking like in terms of that low, I'm sorry, I'm calling it the wrong note. I'm sorry. So it would be, let's start on A flat. So I'm thinking in the, I'm sorry, it's in it's in the key of B major. And I'm thinking in terms of relative. So when you think in the 6 would be like the A flat You know, that A flat. I'm throwing myself off with these strings. This would be like the A flat to the 7, 3, 4. So that's how I'm calling those numbers out. If anybody's confused by now, this is what I'm doing. So that A flat minor instead of E flat minor. A flat minor. Sorry. So it's, all that's A flat minor. Because I'm tuned half step lower, it looks like it's in the A position, but it's actually A flat minor. And I'm using a relative, so I'm going, and we know that the B is relative, the relative major of the A flat. This is not a bass lesson, but I'm just giving you guys context as to what I'm playing. All right, so let me go here and read a few of your comments. Miss J says, I just bought a wah pedal for my bass. Nice to hear you use one in this group. Yeah, so that's actually the MXR envelope filter. MXR envelope filter that I'm using. Like Jazz says, Sergey, you sound awesome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm just kind of trying to knock the dust off my hands this morning. I got in a really good practice yesterday. And even when you're practicing consistently, sometimes it feels like you kind of got to work the kinks out. Everything ain't always flowing as freely as it should. So sometimes you got to work the kinks. This is a great solo tone, cut through so well. You still tune E to C. In essence, I am, for the most part, floppy. Then I'm just tuning a half step down from that. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Ronaldo says, Mr. Jermaine, I'm Haitian, but really like your style. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that because I know you guys have a rich musical culture as well. So thank you. I really appreciate that. The School of Bass. What's up, man? What's going on? Ivan on bass. Am I late, sir? Speaking from South Africa here. No, you're not late. You're right on time, man. You're right on time. You're right on. If I'm here, you're right on time. So you haven't missed too much yet. I was just playing around with this particular groove, getting everybody confused as to how I'm tuned up. So you're right on time. If you came in to be confused, you're right here. No, I'm playing. One of my goals, if you guys are not familiar with me, I'm Jermaine Morgan, by the way. If you're new to this channel, for whatever reason, you just stumble upon this live, I teach bass, and I have a bass, I'm not going to call it a bass academy or any of that stuff. I got online lessons on my website, jermainemorgan.net, if you want to learn more about what I do, and pretty much bass playing made easy. I want to take the complications out of playing the bass. It's like my whole premise is to make learning bass less complicated and more enjoyable. That's the whole premise in terms of how I teach. Because if you came from the type background that I came from, I know a few people that I reach came from those type backgrounds where you just didn't get the theory and everything right off bat, and you're not able to quickly identify everything. So it makes you afraid to really embrace this instrument because you think in your mind, I can't get it. It's too complicated. My main objective is to make this thing less complicated and more enjoyable in these lessons. And I also do coaching, bass coaching. So if you're needing extra help, just want to make that known because I know a lot of you guys jump on these lives. You hear me talk, but you don't know what all I do. And those are some of the main things I do concerning my website. Now, something that I do outside of that is consulting. I kind of help music consulting. I help groups or individuals, whether it's with churches, with their bands, kind of help figure out what those weak spots are and try to improve those weak spots, as well as coming in and working with different groups and helping you to the same thing, identify what your weaknesses are so we can come up with a plan to help you move to that next level in your playing or in your presentation of what you're trying to do for the overall group. And it's not just limited to music, but yeah, that's what I do. If you guys want to know who I am, want to know more about me, be sure to visit jermainemorgan.net. I'll drop that in the comments so that you'll know exactly how to spell it and everything. It's not that complicated. jermainemorgan.net. If you want to know a little bit about me, here, let me put it up here where you can see it. You can find out everything you need to know about me there on jermainemorgan.net. School of Bass. Okay, you're talking to School of Bass. Oh, who is that? Chrononymic. Is that correct? Good morning to you. So School of Bass, let me go back and read your comment. Um, should one should one get used to using fret wraps, or should we go hard with learning how to mute and using a left hand? It's really preference, man. I kind of do both. It depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes I have a technique that I can mute with the left hand, but if I'm doing something, I'm more concerned about what I'm playing in terms of sounding good and getting the idea across than I am in terms of making sure I got perfect muting technique and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times I'll do what causes me to not think as much. Sometimes there are people, and don't get me wrong, there are people with phenomenal technique who can do some amazing things on bass simply because they've perfected their technique. And at times I feel like I have a really, really good technique, and at times I don't, But when it comes to me being creative, I just like to make it as easy as possible. As I was saying, in terms of learning bass, the way that I teach, I try to take the complications out of learning. I try to make it easy, and I don't teach anything that I don't practice. When I'm playing, I'm most creative when I'm not overthinking. I'm not overanalyzing. I'm not saying what your question is doing that, but for me personally, whatever makes the jobs easiest for me, that's what I kind of tend to lean towards, because I don't want to overwork when I'm playing, especially if I'm going to be playing for a while, or especially if I got a lot of demand on me. If I have a band, I do shows and stuff from time to time as the Jermaine Morgan Band. If you never heard of us, go look us up. So when I'm playing, there's a lot of demand with being out front and center of the stage. So I don't have time. And I know the more you do it, it becomes kind of second nature to you. But at times there are things that I don't want to think about technique or any of that stuff. I just want to, all right, I know the string might ring. So let me go ahead, since it's here, let me go ahead and pull that down. I'm going to be down here doing some stuff. And when I'm done, I'll move it up out of the way. You see what I'm saying? So that works for me. Now, each person is different. If you're a person that's really keen on technique and everything has to be right, and you want to make sure that you're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's, by all means, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything at all wrong with that. But I do feel like it's important to find out what's your best method of getting the best version of you out. Figure out what that thing is that helps you to be as creative as possible with as less stress as possible. Because if you're not used to being on the stage, or if you're not used to playing in front of people, that in itself is going to be stressful enough when you first start doing it. So you want to find ways that takes that stress away from you and allow you to be completely free to be you on that stage, or wherever you find yourself playing. You want to be able to completely be you. And I think when you can be as honest as you possibly can when you're playing, people respond a lot better. Because if we're playing part of, and this is the word, entertainment is not a bad word. I don't want to put it out like it's a bad thing, but often in the music industry, we find ourselves entertaining people. And so in order to entertain, we have to really be comfortable in our own skin, or you're going to be wearing a hat. Kind of leads me into the thing that I'm going to talk about today. But it's really easy to kind of slip into this role of entertainment only, and you're not being honest with who you are. I think the more we can be honest about who we are, what it is we do, and allow all of that to come out in terms of what we're doing and what we're trying to play, it makes it so much easier. It takes a lot of the thinking off. And so now it's kind of like talking to someone you're trying to get a job interview versus talking to your best friend. We know with either one, there's a level of communication skills required. But when you're speaking, trying to get another job, or trying to talk to somebody that you feel that's quote unquote very intellectual, you tend to try to sound smart when you speak. You tend to overthink to try to make sure you're monitoring every word that you say so that you don't end up sounding crazy or anything like that, versus when you're with someone, friends or family, that you really, you know them, they know you, they know the intentions of your heart. and you know the intentions of their heart, you're a little bit more open to speak freely about what it is you think, what you believe. You're a little bit more open to laugh out loud, let them hear it. Some of y'all snort when you laugh and all that kind of foolishness. So you're a little bit more open to let people see the real you when you feel like you know them and they really know you. But oftentimes us as musicians, we treat the stage as if we're doing a job interview. And so we feel like we have to overcompensate for things in order to be accepted. It all comes down to being accepted on that stage or in that room or wherever we are. We feel like with the band, with the peers, if we're playing with people who are at a higher caliber, musical caliber than us, we feel like we have to somewhat perform, to put on a show in order to be accepted. It all comes down to acceptance. But the thing about it, when you're doing that, you're not being 100% you. If you're feeling like you're doing stuff only to be accepted, you're not being 100% you. And now you're not giving that person an opportunity to accept, to fully accept or reject you. You might play some great stuff. You might smile. You might look the part, sound the part, and all that kind of stuff. But are you really you? Are you really you? And that's, for me, I know I'm giving a long response to a short question, but I think it's something that people need to hear. For me, over the years, I feel like what I've learned in my journey of becoming an even better musician, the better I can say it is terribly, I'm saying this in bad English, but I feel like the better I have gotten over the years is due to me becoming more aware of who I am and accepting and embracing that instead of trying to do what I think people expect me to do. Over even doing these lives, I feel like I'm more honest in terms of when I come before you guys, I'm playing. Like this idea that I'm playing this morning is coming straight off the cuff. But it's cool. It's okay. I don't feel pressured to try to perform for you guys. It's like, all right, you're here. You're in my space and I'm allowing you to hear what it is I'm doing. Imagine being able to recreate this on stage. Granted, you want it to be a little bit more polished, but imagine being able to create this same idea, the same energy, the same vibe to where you're able to invite someone into your space as opposed to you both coming into a room that you don't know about and everybody's walking on eggshells. It's a little bit more comfortable. It's a little bit more relaxing. Like you're watching on your computer, you're watching on your phone, you're watching in your car, you're in your space. I'm in my space. So we're both comfortable. And now we're both comfortable and free to express the way we really want to express without the pressure of feeling like I have to perform. Granted, there are people who get online and perform, but I think when we can be more honest about who we are, the music just seems to flow a little more freely, and we're a little bit more pure in our choices in terms of what we have to say musically. Long answer coming to a close. All right. So yeah, I don't know how I got way out there, so sorry. So let me see here. Let me go back. That is correct. Haha. Most people get it wrong. I'm glad I got it right. And I'm not going to try it again. Since I got it right the first time, I ain't going to even try it again. Ivan on bass. Beside your lessons, sir, I find your album useful. Example, Dreams Work Reality. Take Your Swing. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Don't hear a lot of people talk about that song. I really appreciate that. Dreams Work Reality, guys, if you haven't listened to the record. I'm also a bass player. How should I do to play like that? Be honest. That's the short version. Be honest. All I'm doing on this bass is being honest. Some people like it, some people don't, and I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I do. And here's the other thing about Ronaldo. Here's the other thing about that answer about being honest. Being honest in the moment. I feel like a lot of us musicians, depending on the environment and who we're around, we feel like there's this pressure to prove what we can do. There's always this pressure to prove, especially given the right set of circumstances and the right group of people watching and paying attention to you. You feel like you have to prove something as a musician. Well, if I play this, it might sound too safe. Or if I play a simple pentatonic scale, the person listening might think that's all I know how to do. And it's like, I've gotten to this point where I don't need to prove my vocabulary to you. If this is what I'm hearing in this moment, if it's just a Mary Had a Little Lamb melody that works over this song and that's what I'm hearing, well, I'll be honest to that melody, not try to prove a point that I can play all of this crazy stuff in this song just so you'll know that I have the chops to do it. Because when I'm doing that, once again, I'm becoming something that I think you want me to be instead of being honest with myself in that moment. I was playing this groove. Let's go back to this groove really quick. I wasn't hearing a lot of stuff over this groove. It's really, really simple stuff that I'm playing. A lot of it is just, major scales, some arpeggios where I'm going through chords, but it's really simple stuff. It's not a lot of complicated stuff that I'm playing. Simple minor groove, I can think of it in a minor sense or a major sense. Either way, I can get away with whatever I want to play. So I'm playing like this, playing off of these B major ideas. That's it. Maybe add a little accidentals in there every now and again. I mean, a little bit more than accidentals. But whatever I'm hearing, just being honest to that. I don't have to prove anything and play 100 miles per hour just to prove to somebody, oh, I can do this. I do have the chops. But I feel like due to social media and the things we see and the things we're exposed to every day, there's this pressure to perform. Somebody can write that down. There's this pressure to perform because we feel the need, if people are going to respect me, if they're going to value what I have to say, then it must sound something like what this person did or something like what that person did. That comparison syndrome where you start measuring yourself up against something somebody else said. And there's something to be said about someone who knows. And I listen to singers. I listen to really, really great singers. And this is something that I think I took from my mom. Listening to singers, there are some singers that you hear them and they sing with so much conviction, you know that they know what they're singing about. And then there's some singers who are phenomenally gifted. They're super talented. They can rip and run. I mean, just until they sing your ears off. A whole bunch of riffs, whole bunch of runs, but there's no conviction, which means you feel nothing when you hear them. There's nothing there. It's like it's empty. You have nothing to say. Like, I hear what you're saying, but I can tell you don't know what you're singing about. Especially in gospel music. We know gospel music is full of so much feeling, conviction, soul, all that kind of stuff that you can tell if a person is singing a song about something that they went through, even if they didn't write the song, they identify with the lyrics of the song. So when they sing it and they can sing one note and the way they wail that one note, it's like, all right, she know what she talking about. Or he done been through that thing he talked about. He ain't just singing about something. He knows what he's talking about. Now, if singers can do that and convey that, why aren't we doing it as musicians? Well, granted, all of us are musicians, but musicians who are playing these instruments, why are we not conveying that same thing when we play? Why is it not coming across your struggles? Being honest, being really honest. I had a rough week this week. I'm not going to take it out on the music, but I am going to let it come through me in terms of, let me be clear when I say that, not projecting your bad week on anybody, but playing through that pain, pushing through it, using it as fuel to say what you want to say, meaning adding some conviction to what it is you're trying to do. I had a rough week, but I got through it. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing, and allowing that to come through where people hear your voice more than they hear your technique. I'll let that register for some people for a second. With any instrument that you're playing, it's an extension of your voice. It's an extension of who you are, what you're about, all the things you believe, all that kind of stuff. So when people hear you play, even if they don't know you, they should sense something about you. Most of us do it indirectly and we don't know it. So when people hear you play, it's a turnoff because your attitude comes through. Your bad attitude comes through. And people can hear it in your playing. They cannot see your face. If you're in tune enough, a lot of times you can hear people playing. It's like, man, that sounds arrogant. Just by how they're playing. I don't know if that's everybody that can sense that. So I'm not going to put that blanket statement on everybody because I know everybody didn't pick up on that. It's like, oh man, that just sounded good. Sometimes I can hear certain things in music and it's like I can hear the heart of people while they play. It comes across loud and clear. Loud and clear. You can hear the heart, the intention of that person because we tend to play in the way that we feel. If a person is timid, they tend to play timid. If a person is super confident, they tend to play confident. Or it's the opposite. A person tends to overcompensate for what they lack in their personality. So maybe they're a timid or a shy person, but you put them on an instrument and that real personality comes through because that's the real them screaming out from the inside and they want you to hear it. But when the instrument is not in their hand, they're shy. And it's not because they're shy. They don't know how to express the same way they do through the instrument. So it can go both ways. It can go both. I'm gonna move off of that, but it can go both ways. Guitar player here. What's your advice for someone who wants to get into bass? Pick it up, start playing. I got some simple answers for y'all today. I mean, come on with it. I got simple answers, but it sounds like I'm being funny, but I'm not. It's like I'm being serious. If you want to get into playing bass and you play guitar, get you a bass, start playing it. The best way to learn how to do something is start doing it. It's that simple. You pick it up and start figuring it out. And I think the better or the more you're going to have your cats that's going to tell you against what I'm saying, because all of this stuff is my opinion. You know, you can take it and chunk it if you want to, or you can take the meat and spit out the bones. It's all on you. But I feel like, and I play multiple instruments. This is why I can say this with confidence. With each of these instruments, it wasn't a lot of thoughts saying, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. No, it's just like I just sat down and started trying to figure it out. And I feel like the more you can do that on your own, now when you start adding the information from other people, from mentors and people giving you lessons and that kind of thing, when you start adding that stuff to what you know, you tend to progress a little better, in my opinion. When you're willing to change, when you're willing to adjust, that has to be always at the forefront. I'm always willing to learn. I'm always hungry for more information. I'm always hungry to get better. That hunger has to stay there. Now, if you start learning on your own and you get really stubborn and you don't want to improve, you don't want to change, you're not willing to adjust anything, then yeah, you're going to be stuck. But if you're hungry, you're willing to learn, you're willing to adjust. And it's like, I figured it out. I started learning this way. One of my students, I think, Tiffany, if she's still on here, when we first started her lessons as a beginner bass player, she had some habits that she had picked up that were not great, but she was willing to adjust those in order to become better at bass playing. And she has gotten better in a short amount of time because that hunger was there for her to improve in terms of what she was doing. It's not that I was telling her all that stuff that you're doing is wrong. I never approached it like that because I never want to discourage a person from learning, because you might end up running up on something that's sweet that I don't know about yet. So I don't want to discourage you to the point and make you think everything you're doing is wrong, because I've heard this said before. This is a fairly new instrument. This is like one of the newer instruments, not the newest, but this instrument is still young. So people are still figuring out different ways to do it. And so we haven't figured everything out. None of us are know-it-alls when it comes to this instrument. So the whole theory about, 4 strings and no more, that's a limited thinking. That's a limited mentality. We don't all have the answers. So allow people to explore. There's no right way to do everything. You know what I'm saying? It's like some things might be a little better. Some things might serve you well in the long run, but to just tell somebody they're flat out wrong about everything that they're doing, that's a bad way to approach people. And that's a good way to discourage people from learning rather than encourage them to keep going, my opinion. All right. So good morning, Stephen. I know you spoke a good minute ago, but I'm saying it now. Good morning to you. I got the fret rap literally last week. I like to keep sounding clear. I forfeit the ringing at times of the other strings. Absolutely, Miss J. I got you. Chrononemic. There we go. I got you. Chrononemic says, my issue with bass playing in gospel is that I cannot express myself in the groove or licks without it sounding off with the song or out. Gospel songs have no tabs, so I have to figure it out. Yeah, most gospel music has no tabs. Gospel relies a lot on ear training. That's why most of my courses, if you've been to my website and you got anything, most of my courses rely heavily on ear training because of demand over the years. I started creating tabs and, I started getting, the songs scored out, that kind of thing. So there's notation for most of all of my courses now. At the beginning, I really didn't do that, but I understood that people are coming from different backgrounds and they don't get it as quick as everybody else. So I had to, be willing to adjust and make that available for everybody. So almost all of my base courses on my site have tab and they have the sheet music to them so that you can figure out this gospel stuff that I'm playing and put it in context with the music. But again, the gospel music relies heavily on ear training. One of the courses, or two of the courses that I have the congregational songs course that teach you like the old school songs that they are quick to break out with in song, like glory, glory, hallelujah, since I laid my burden, like stuff like that. They'll just break out with that you don't know. I teach that stuff in my courses because, again, it's that information that if you didn't grow up in the church hearing that stuff, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to play it. So I created courses where I show bass players like yourself how to play this stuff. And a lot of this stuff, they're not going to be, ain't nobody going to pass you no music. They're going to call the song out and this is how it goes. And you got to get the structure. Now, what you'll find in those courses that a lot of the structures are the same. It's like it pretty much follows the same progression for the most part. Some little variances here and there, but for the most part, they follow the same foundation because a lot of those songs back in the day were very, very similar. They just changed the lyrics, changed a couple of the chord changes, and kept it moving. And then the vamp of the song, are they doing that or they're doing that at the very end of the song, and that's the vamp on almost every one of those congregational songs. But that's just the way it was in gospel years ago. Now it's a lot different, a lot more complicated for some people, and depending on what you're listening to, it could be a little bit more simple. But again, gospel music relies heavily on ear training, so I think that's why it's important to really use your ears. One of the things that I recommend my students do is when you're listening, transcribing these gospel records. If you're not just writing them down, but I also refer to transcribing as just simply listening and pulling those songs apart note by note and making sure that you get them, even if you're not literally writing them down, pulling it apart note by note. It's something I tell the monthly members all the time. When you do that, now you get the language of that bass player who played that record. That producer told him to play a certain thing. So now not only are you getting those riffs and runs that bass player is doing, you're also getting those riffs and runs in context of the song in that particular kind of groove. So now when you get to a groove similar to that, oh, I use this over here in this song. So I wonder, will it work in this song because it sounds similar? And then you try it, trial and error. You try it and you find out that, oh, man, this works over here too. So now what you do because of that, you're training your ear to pick up all this information, and now you're redistributing this information somewhere else, and all of this is going into your vocabulary. And to me, I think that cuts down on the learning time because you're learning songs. I have some students who don't want to I don't want to learn the song just how it is. I want to still do my own thing, and there's nothing wrong with doing your own thing. Trust me, that's how I grew up playing. We learned. My uncle was notorious for doing his own thing when he learned the song. It's like, all right, my brother and I would laugh. We get a song and we had to play for the choir. I'm super young playing the guitar or the drums, whatever I was playing at the time. And they'd send us the song. We have to learn the song for choir rehearsal, that kind of thing. And my uncle said, all right, that's how they played it, but we're going to play it our way. It's like, wait a minute. It's like, what's our way? We didn't write this song. So it's important to make sure you understand context. You understand what the original intent for the song was before you start adding your own way to the song, because your way might not fit the original intent of the song. But if you have the original intent, you respect what's already there. Now, if you're making a variation from that with respect to what's already there, now, okay, because we've learned it this way, that's cool. but now we're going to do this. We've done that even on large platforms where we've taken songs and maybe they had some crazy intro or some crazy outro or some crazy bridge or something. My MD would be like, nah, we're not doing that. We're not doing none of that. And we adjusted the song, and we didn't take away from the integrity or the intention of the song. We adjusted it to fit what it is, what we were trying to do. And so it worked with the vocals, it worked with everything in order for our band, for it to fit for us. So, but we all knew how the song go. We just didn't bother about playing certain parts because we understood, all right, they did that for that live recording to make sure that record sounded good. And we don't necessarily have to do that. If they got some Chick Corea line in the middle of the song, it's like, that's not going to take away from the song if we don't play that particular line. So it's okay in that regard. So hopefully all of that gives you context to chrononymic. Hopefully all that gives you context to kind of, learning gospel music and getting a little better understanding of gospel music. Obed, good morning to you. Peely, good morning to you. Floppy, yes sir, man. Mac Deal, good morning to you. Anthony says, one of the perils of a gigging musician is taking on too many different styles of music and losing the feel for the music that is at your core. I've talked about this many, many times. Let me read your second comment. It's one thing to practice the music that speaks to you. It's a completely different thing to play with other musicians and stay in the pocket along with being melodically relevant. Absolutely. I definitely agree. Having been doing this professionally for many, many years and playing on many stages, I completely agree. Completely agree with being able to. That's why, going back to what I said early, Anthony, it goes to it speaks to the point of being respecting the music, rather understanding the original intent of the song. Once you understand the original intent of the song, so not to be confused when I said earlier about you being honest in the music, I'm speaking especially to the point of talking about improvisation. When you're taking solos and all that kind of stuff, there are situations and scenarios that require you to play that music verbatim. When we're talking in context of playing a song, there are situations and scenarios or gigs or studio sessions that require you to play verbatim what they want. I've had producers that I still work with today. They send me the song and they send me their demo of what they wanted. They might play a keyboard or something like that, and they want exactly what they played on keyboard. They just want a real bass player to play it. They don't want all these extra riffs, all these extra runs. They don't want my opinion. They want exactly what they played, but they just want me to play it. So it's always with respect to what the music is calling for, or what the producer is calling for, what the artist is calling for. You know what I'm saying? But there are times when you will be in situations where you have a little more leeway, a little bit more creativity. And I think that comes with building a relationship with the people that you're playing with. The longer you've been working with people, you seem to get a little bit more freedom. I remember when I was traveling with Canton Jones, a gospel artist, we had a lot of freedom in that band. At first, it started out, we was playing his music as is, but he was a really, really free artist. He allowed us to rearrange his music, and he was like a gospel rap artist. So, it's like a lot of rap, trap, all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? But he allowed us to take the arrangements and flip the arrangements and do whatever we wanted to do with the arrangements. So there was a lot of freedom, but we still played the song. All of the things that we done, adding it wasn't really me. It was my guy, Dunny, who was the MD. He was adding all these cartwheels and stuff to the arrangement. And but we got away with a lot of it because there was always respect for the original intent of the song. Now, when you take a solo, if that artist or this band leader or whoever gives you the opportunity to take a solo, now that's your moment to really be you in that moment, because when they say solo, that means it's you. I want you. I don't want your interpretation of what you think I want unless somebody instructed you, hey, give me a slap bass solo, this whole 16 measures, and don't do nothing else. But if they give you the floor to be completely honest about what you're feeling in this groove or what you're feeling in this song, that's your moment to be honest, if that makes sense to everybody. All right. So great answer. It really helps. Thank you. No problem, man. Terrific topic. Thank you. I don't even know if I'm on topic at this point. I'm just talking. I'm answering questions. I haven't even got to a topic. I don't know if I will this morning, but all good. JX. Angel says good. God bless you, brother Morgan. Checking in from Pennsylvania. Yes, sir. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Floppy T says, oh, well, these boats aren't going to prep themselves. Time to go back to work. We'll catch the rest later. God bless all, man. Thank you for tuning in, Floppy. I appreciate you, man. Let's see. Tribe of Judah Israelite says, could you play Change the World? I don't have the track pulled up. Right now. I'd have to go through it and find that. Let me see if I can find that stem. And if I did find it, I got to remember it. That's the other thing. Change the World. Let me see if I can find it. Just because you asked, let me see if I can find it. How you find about that song? You've been hanging around. You've been listening to me for a second. I appreciate that. So let's see here. All right, let's see. Let's try this one. Let me see if this is it. And there we go. Change the world. All right. Hopefully that was straight. Had some flubs in there, but amen. I hadn't played that song in a minute. It's been a minute. All right. So I play, Miss J says, I play at a Pentecostal church. I'm the bass player. We have a keyboardist, drummer, 4 trumpeters, and a saxophone player. I think I will inquire about the consultation on our band and improvements. Absolutely. Send me an email. Send me an email at jermaine@jermainemorgan.net. You can send me an email there and let's talk about it. I'd love to see what we can do, whether it's virtual or whether it's an in-person visit, depending on where you guys are. I know that there are some COVID regulations with some people still. So, yeah, let's talk about it. Send me an email there. B major, I actually got the key right. Yeah, yeah. Ivan says, sir, please, can you go through what is meant by harmony on bass? Ivan, I don't know if I can cover that in this particular talk because that's kind of loaded. Slightly a loaded question. And if I get into that, I'm afraid we'll be here a little longer than I intended on being here in terms of speaking about harmony. I will recommend someone, and I'm not ashamed to do this. Like, I talk about harmony, but there's somebody that I think who does an amazing job talking about harmony, and that's Anthony Madraja. I can't pronounce his last name. Madraja or something like that. I don't want to butcher it. But he does a great job talking about harmony and understanding harmony in terms of like, that's like where he really focuses his teachings on understanding harmony. So yeah, I would recommend you check out some of his videos as well. He's another bass instructor here on YouTube. Let It Breathe. Let's see here. Go back to MJ2. I'm sorry, Miss J says, I like that musicians should demonstrate that conviction through, musicians should demonstrate that conviction through the music. My God, that message right there by itself. That's a message right there by itself. I'm sorry for my little stumbling over the words this morning. B.E. Wool, what's up from Roy City, Texas? My first time on here. Welcome, man. Welcome to Grooves and Motivation live with me, Jermaine. Donnie says, with you being an experienced bassist, can you hear the difference in a bass lick versus a guitar lick that was played on the bass? Sometimes I can. I mean, I'm trying to be careful about how I answer this question because, I mean, in my opinion, a riff is a riff. It doesn't matter what instrument you play it on. Truth be told, a riff is a riff. Because there's a drum riff that cats can play on the bass by doing thumping or adding notes to it. A riff is or lick is just a lick. It is what it is. It's and I get what you're saying because there's some riffs that I have showed my keyboard player when we are writing songs and that kind of thing. He's like, yeah, that's definitely a bass player lick. So I get the context of what you're saying. And yeah, so there are certain licks that are easier to do on guitar, and sometimes I can hear based on the difficulty of playing it or trying to execute it, I could tell somebody, all right, they definitely did this on the piano or guitar or whatever the case may be, versus, you know, a lick that maybe I came up with or some other bass player came up with, because the fingerings and the way that we play them kind of gives that away in a sense. But at the end of the day, I've seen cats that, you know, it don't matter what the person learned to lick on, they'll go right back behind them on the keys and do it like it ain't nothing. And so it's just a matter of a person building that dexterity that whatever you throw at them, they can play it. Because, I mean, all of them are interchangeable in my opinion. Some things are difficult than other things to figure out. But if you're listening to these little young kids nowadays that's playing on Instagram and YouTube, you see it's all the same. They're learning Charlie Parker licks on the bass and all this kind of stuff. And so it is what it is. So Crash Bass and Bass Player says, hi, Jermaine. Always interesting things. Greetings from Italy. Crash Bass, good morning to you. Thank you for tuning in. Ronaldo says, I'm Haitian. What method can you use so that I understand all this in French? I don't know. I honestly don't know without using the subtitles and choosing the subtitles. I don't know how well it will translate over with using the caption and the subtitles. But yeah, honestly, I don't know. I'm sorry, Ronaldo, that I don't have a better answer for you. JX Fades says, reggae and hip hop helped me to realize that less is more. Right hand. Jamerson gave me confidence in chord tones and chromatic. Left hand. Got you. Yeah, I grew up JX Fade. I didn't necessarily grow up playing, those genres, but I did grow up playing gospel quartet. In the regard of playing that particular song that changed the world song, obviously, when it's a song that the bass is the feature, you kind of got to do a little bit more in terms of playing out a little bit more. Now, in the context of a band, if many of you heard me, I don't know if you have heard me in the context of a band, there's a lot of people who wouldn't even know I played half the stuff I played, because in context, I think to what you're saying, JX, I know that's not, I'm assuming that's not your real name, but to what you're saying, I think context is always important, because people can kind of get on this whole thing about, and I'm for it. Less is more, especially when I'm in producer mode. I'm in the studio. But I think context is everything. We have to make sure that we keep things in proper context, because I'll give you a perfect example. When I started playing at the mega church, and this was 2007, I went in there with the less is more mentality, because, I knew that I have the tendency to do a lot of runs and all this kind of stuff. But in that particular setting, and this is why I say context, and I didn't want to just make an example. I didn't want to say something and not give you proper context. This is on a major scale, major platform. I'm playing with cats who play for everybody in the industry, both gospel and R&B. And one of the things I kept getting, you need to be more aggressive. You need to come out more. You need to give me a little bit more, because you're playing too passive. And I'm thinking, well, I'm trying to stay out of everybody's way. But in doing that, it came across in that context, in that particular setting, it came across as passive, as if I wasn't doing enough. Now, if I were to get on a record or recording and play that same thing that I was trying to play live, it would be fine for the record. Even I'll use more recently, we played with Jonathan Nelson a couple of years ago, and we played his song exactly like the record. And his words, I quote, was, he said, "You're playing the record exactly like the record. And, I appreciate that, but I want more. I want more than that. I want you to give me some more." And so it was like, oh, okay. So you do want us to do, so in that context, less is more wasn't working, because there are instances and there are contexts where people want you to come out. They want you to be more expressive, because in a live setting, sometimes depending on the energy in the room, depending on what they're trying to do, you have to come with it. They want you to be able to, you need to be able to get across that fretboard a little bit more than you're doing, because just doing like on the song I was just playing, that's the record. But if I was playing it live, sometimes I couldn't get away with just now if there's a vocalist or some other instrument that's carrying it. But notice in the instance of me playing that song, that groove, obviously I did this for demonstration and for an example, but there was no melody in terms of main melody. The lead vocal was muted. There was nothing else really carrying the song. You just had an open groove for the sake of playing along with it and being expressive. So in that context, yeah, you can get away with a lot of kind of being all over the place in a sense, as long as you don't lose the main intent, as I said earlier, as long as you don't lose the main intent of the song. So I do agree about less is more in certain contexts, because I grew up playing gospel quartet, and you don't get no more less is more than gospel quartet. That's how I came up. That's what I grew up playing. So it's like stuff. I'm talking about old school quartet, not the stuff that we're playing now, but the old school stuff where like the old school cats, you start playing too much, they'll look at you and call you out. Like, yay, none of that. Like they'll get you. So I get the context of less is more, and so you got to make sure. And I had to make that adjustment when I started playing on bigger stages in terms of understanding, all right, how much can I get away with in this particular context? So we have to be really, really careful about, when we're, kind of pushing that on other people about the whole less is more thing. That's true. But context, we can't leave that out of the conversation as well. If you haven't played in those environments where it's been demanded of you to give more, you can't be so quick to say, to another player, oh man, they're doing too much. You don't know what that artist asked for. You don't know what this particular situation that they're in asked for. Because in my situation, many stages that I went on, they were asking me to come out. Come on, man, do a look. I never forget, I played with Marvin Sapp and the guy that was MDing for him that particular song, that particular day. I was playing the songs. He's like, man, come on, I need some more. I'm like, dude, what do you want me to do? Play a solo? It's like, that's my guy now. But Terrence, I think it's Terrence Ruffin. He's like, dude, I need some more. And so he kept pushing me to come out. And, and as I seen, the more I came out, Marvin himself was actually enjoying. He turned around on something that I did. He was actually enjoying what I played. So again, context is everything. You have to make sure when we say those statements and when we kind of put that blanket over stuff, we have to make sure that context is always included on that. So I'll move off of that. So Floyd says, good morning, good words. I'm driving around with the wife and kids listening to your morning motivation. Appreciate that, Floyd. Thank you, sir. Emmanuel, it says the riffs and the runs are icing on the cake. Groove and pocket are the actual cake. You can eat the cake. You can eat the cake without the icing, but you can't eat the icing without the cake. Listen, that's good. I like that. Tribe of Judah. Thanks, bro. No problem. Love your sound, Evan. Thank you. I appreciate that. Joel, lots of love from Zimbabwe. I appreciate that, man. That track sounds smooth, brother. I appreciate that. I produced that track about 10 or 11 years ago. I wrote that song, and it was on my first record, The Journey Continues. And then we reproduced that song on an album called Trusting God with Pastor Clinton McFarland, where he re-recorded the song in 2018, somewhere in there. So yeah, 2019, 2018. So yeah, I love that song as well. Goals, Evan. Man, I'm sure you're a killing player, Evan. Angel says, I'm about to put you as my whole music for the phone calls at work. I appreciate it, man. Who on drums? On that particular song, Donnie, that was my friend Jamonte Ford. We call him J-Mo Pro if you want to follow him on social media. J-Mo Pro. I don't know if it's numbers behind that, but it's Jamonte Ford is his name. Anthony Robinson, yo, Jermaine, who is that? What's the artist and the title? I'm loving that. Hopefully you just heard me there. That was, you can find it on my first record, The Journey Continues, or you can find it on Pastor Clinton McFarland's record, Trusting God. So it's on that record as well. That's on one of his albums. Yeah, okay, you answered it already. Brother, you are tearing that track up. Appreciate that. MJ, man, yeah. Change the world, love it. Thank you, guys. Anthony Robinson's brother, you were okay. I'm reading over the same stuff again. Awesome plan. Do you also play bass, synth on keys? Yes, I do as well. I don't do it a lot, but yeah, I do play synth bass. The thing about synth bass, I was doing that before, I guess. I mean, it's always been a thing, but before it kind of became super popular nowadays, I was doing that. I used to play keys at my home church. And so I was playing a stack keyboard on top and playing the bass on top. I had two what was the keyboards I had? I think two XP10s. What was it? Who made the XP10s? Was it Korg? I can't remember if it was Korg or Yamaha, but I think it was Korg. No, Roland. I'm sorry, Roland XP10s. I had two of them, so I was playing the key bass on top and playing the chords and stuff on the bottom. So yeah, I've been doing the key bass thing for a minute, and I often do it on my records, depending on the song, depending on the needs of the song. You're giving me some ideas, bro. That's good. I want you to have ideas. I want you guys to be inspired. That's my job. My work here is done. If you're inspired, good. Roland made the XP10. Correct. Yeah, Roland definitely made the XP10. It was a dope keyboard. I wore them out. I had my little XP10s everywhere I went. Lightweight keyboards. You could take it anywhere. You can MIDI it up to the keyboard, but MIDI wasn't that popular back in the day at the time. But yeah, Vic Jackson, good morning, sir. Sounding great here in Kansas City. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. JX says, thank you, brother, for addressing my comment. You're right. I'm probably a little too complacent. Gotta push myself. Nah, man, I get it. JX, you'd be surprised. You're not wrong in what you're saying. I'm just saying you'd be surprised how many people use that, like you're saying, how many people use that as a crutch to not go beyond a certain point. One of the reasons I push myself, not that I want to, become Victor Wooten or that person or whoever. It's like, not that I'm trying to become that person, but I want to maximize my full potential. It's like, I want to have that stuff. What's going on, bro? My brother's in here this morning, Kendrick Morgan. So y'all follow him. So I want to be able to push myself. I want to push myself to exceed what I thought my limits were as a musician. So whatever I thought my cap was, let me exceed that. Let me push past it. Because here's the thing, JX, when we go back to the point of playing pocket or, less is more, we all, after a certain point as professionals, we all know how to do that. We all know how to play pocket. So if we all know how to do that, all right, so what else is beyond that? Let's push past, because I can always take away. It's something I was told in the studio to that point, JX, because, again, I'm coming from a quartet, very traditional background where bass players didn't step out that much. And I was doing a session with this producer, and he was doing the same thing, trying to get me to come out because he knew I could do all the other stuff. But what would happen with me, I'm being real transparent with y'all, what would happen with me, as soon as we hit that red button, I would freeze. I would forget stuff. I would play it safe. I was a less is more. I was the minister for less is more. When it came to that session, I ain't giving you nothing but what you asked for, and I ain't giving you nothing more because I don't want to mess up. That was my whole premise. I didn't want to mess the song up. I didn't want to do anything to embarrass myself, so I was playing it safe. And he kept pushing me to come out. Hey, man, you need to come out. You need to come out. And here's his philosophy behind it. He says, give me more, and I can tell you to pull back. But if you play it safe and don't come out, you leave me feeling like that's all you have to offer. And so a lot of us don't get callbacks of session players and that kind of stuff because sometimes we can go into things playing it too safe. One of the things with certain artists that I do when I send them bass takes, because I know certain producers and artists that I'm working with, I might give them 2 takes. I give them the take that's a lot like their their reference take that they gave me. I give them something verbatim almost to their reference take, but with my feel on it. And then I'll give them a take of my thoughts of the song, or the kind of thing that I thought would have been dope if somebody had added that to the song. So they have the both to choose from, and I let the producer or the artist go in there and chop up what they want, but they have 2 takes to pull from. And now they hear, oh, he has a creative side. He got some stuff that he's hearing that I'm not necessarily telling him what to do. Now, what that does as a player, that kind of secures me a little bit more with that artist or that producer. And that allows that producer to know, okay, if I send him this track, he might could add some other stuff to it. Because, I mean, for you to just play what I play, but just play it as a bass player, I mean, I can get anybody to do that. But for you to give me something and suggest something to me, not taking away from the original intent of my song, but for you to suggest something to me that could go here, that could possibly take the song to another place. Because even as a producer myself, when people send me tracks back and they go kind of left with it, it's like, oh man, I wasn't even thinking that. I'll go back and recut some of my stuff based off what they did. Now they just added value to themselves as a player to that particular thing. Like now, so I want to call them back, because if I'm stumped, maybe this person has some other ideas. But if you always gave me the less is more, the bare minimum, now I'm stuck thinking in my mind, all right, he ain't gonna give me something. But this other guy over here that just did a take for me, they came with it. So I'm gonna go to this guy, because in my mind, now on this particular track, I'm looking for somebody who can come with it. So you have to really kind of think ahead. So I think something that really has given me somewhat longevity in what I'm doing is trying to think ahead, always trying to think ahead, not getting stuck with where I was yesterday. Because I mean, I'm getting older in music. You get a little older, you know what I'm saying? Your ideas can somewhat become dated. So if you're always kind of thinking ahead, not trying to go with every fad that comes up, but if you're thinking ahead and constantly pushing yourself, because music is constantly evolving and you're always listening, always being aware, you can go backwards and pull some stuff from old school and bring it into new school. It ain't always about trying to see what new school is doing. Sometimes you can go backwards and pull a lot of that stuff that these cats played back in the day that ain't nobody doing. You reintroduce this stuff and it's like you're ahead of the game because nobody else is thinking about that. Like if you pull some ragtime or something, if you're a piano player, you pull some ragtime stuff and put it in the music they was doing 100 years ago and you play it in the track, it's like, oh man, that's the dopest stuff. It's like, bro, they was doing that 100 years ago, but you ain't heard it. So it's new to you. So you ain't always gotta, you know what I'm saying, try to reinvent the wheel. Somebody's always done it. But your thing should be, let me push myself to the max and see how I can maximize the potential of what I have instead of getting stuck based on somebody else's opinion. That's my 2 cents. Mo Fun. That warrior looking good, bro. Thank you, sir. Kelvin Atkinson, good morning, sir. Good morning to you. Thanks for the advice, not playing too safe. Absolutely. Don't play it too safe. So whatever I name this broadcast, don't compromise to fit in. I think I've been somewhat on the topic of that, but that wasn't really what I was talking about. But I just got to answering questions. So the point, just so whoever clicked on this video for the title in the replay, it's like, man, it ain't had nothing to do with the title. Just for the sake of the title, don't compromise to fit in. In this music industry, if you're a person that's trying to get into the industry, what I've seen a lot of people do over the years is they conform to what the industry wants them to be instead of, you know what I'm saying, instead of being themselves. Going back to the whole thing about being honest, being true to who you are. If the gig or if the group of people you are around are causing you to turn into something that you're not, you have to really evaluate if it's worth the gig, if it's worth the money. If I have to change completely who I am to fit into this situation, is it really worth the money? Is that really what I put all the time in working towards building my vocabulary, growing and practicing, putting 10 hours a week or more into this instrument just so I can become something to make a person happy? Is that really why I invested all this time? Because one of the things I've learned throughout my career, I talked about this last week when we were talking about the subject, decide. You decide. You know, I'm not compromising who I am for the sake of the gig. I'm not. So, you know, either I fit it or I don't. And there's tons of things that I've turned down because it's like, yeah, maybe the environment that I'm going to be in, I would rather not be in that environment. Yeah, the money would be great. But if I'm true to who I am, I know that God is going to bring around another opportunity for me to be able to, you know, do what I need to do for my family. Or if it's not one, I know that I can create one. It might take a little time, might take me a little longer. That's the great thing about social media and where we are now with technology. You have the opportunity to create something that's never been. You have the opportunity to create your own niche, your own lane and you don't have to accept something that you don't want to do. Now, I will say this on the flip side of it. It's good on one end to do some things that you don't want to do in terms of gig wise, because there are some things that can be learned from those situations. Everything that necessarily doesn't line up with who you are or what you're about isn't always bad for you. Sometimes you need to go and see what it is so you know what not to be. Sometimes you need to be in a bad situation so you know how not to treat people. I've been in situations where I've had bad MDs or people who hired me and they had bad attitudes or just nasty or worked for people who weren't persons rather. And by watching how they treated people, I learned how not to treat people. So sometimes it's good that you get in those environments so you can figure out what not to do, so that you can better be equipped. Because if you don't have a reference point, you don't know what you don't like. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I have to try sushi. I ain't got to try everything. But sometimes maybe I need to try sushi to find out I don't really like it, because I might try it and realize, oh, this is actually pretty good. You know, I don't like it, but you know what I'm saying? Sometimes we can rule out stuff. I'll leave this last example before I get off of here. But I did instrumental festival for years back home in my state of Mississippi, down there, Houston, Mississippi. I was doing a instrumental music festival. That's something that's not popular at all in that area, and so it's something that I was trying to introduce the area to, introduce the culture to. Just instrumental music, not trying to convert anybody to anything or anything like that, but just to try to get them interested in hearing something different from what they've heard all of their lives. And most of the people were like, I don't know if everybody, I ain't gonna say everybody, but a lot of people that weren't musicians were like, I don't listen to that kind of stuff. But it never fails, almost all of those people who came out and sat out there and listened to the musicians that came through and played, almost every one of them said they enjoyed it. And it was something like, oh man, I ain't never really listened to this before, but I like it. This is really good. I kind of like. And so a lot of times we might rule out stuff that might actually be good because we assume that we're not going to like it. Now, if it compromises your integrity, that's the thing that I'm talking about, because my whole thing is integrity and accountability. If it compromises your integrity, now I ain't got to go into a strip joint to figure out, and maybe I don't need to be in here. That, some things are just common sense. It just let's call a spade a spade. Some things are just common sense. You don't have to do everything to figure out if it's a good fit for you. I know that, that's probably not the best place for me to go, so I'm not going to go there, especially as a married man, especially as a man of faith, and I represent something, to my children and the people and the followers who are looking up to me. Maybe this is not the best idea for me to go here and do this thing, because I could cause somebody who's following me to potentially stumble. Even if I'm good, I might cause them to stumble if they see me in this situation. So I have to use good discernment. I have to use good judgment and not compromise what I've built up, because it takes a lifetime to build a great character, but it only takes a second to destroy it. So you have to be mindful of that as musicians, as leaders, whatever you are watching me. You have to be really, really mindful of the company you keep, the places you go, all these different things, because folks are watching you. They're watching you, and you might not be aware of how much influence you actually have. So that's why it's important to not compromise in order to fit in. Sometimes if you're finding yourself in a situation where you feel like you're constantly not fitting in, maybe that's a cue to you that maybe you need to start your own thing. The reason why you're not fitting in is God is making you uncomfortable so you can start your own thing. He didn't ever intend for you to be in this situation. He never intended for you to be at this job that you don't like. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got your learning, you got whatever you needed to get from that thing. So now you need to move on and do your own thing. That it's constantly gnawing at your mind, but you're constantly saying, "Nah, I can't do that. I don't believe I can do that." Nah, you can do it. You just don't want to do it because you're scared. You don't want to do it because you're scared, right? So take a chance, try it, take a risk. And stop settling for things that you don't want. Stop compromising and fitting in the groups that you were never intended to be in. Right? So Brother G says, bro, would you like to break Joy Spring down someday if you have some time today? I'm not sure what you're talking about. And I know today is definitely not a good day for me because I have a loaded schedule today. But yeah, I'm not sure what I'm guessing that's a song. I don't know that. I don't know that song per se. But listen, thank you all for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you and sharing with you today. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, be sure, if you're not subscribed to this channel, go ahead and subscribe now. We're on our way to 40,000 subscribers. I don't know what's coming after that, but we're on our way to 40. So, so if we stop at 40, we're good. If we don't, and we keep going, to God be the glory. So be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this time with your boy. And also share this video if you found something in it helpful. And yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for today, guys. Thank you so much hanging out with me. You had some really, really great questions. And yeah, y'all kind of took off with it this morning. You had some really good questions. So yeah, thank you all. Thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate it. Peace, P. Lee. Peace to you. Peace to everybody. Raymond he said that was awesome. Learning every day. God bless you, Jermaine. Thank you, Raymond. I appreciate it. Same to you all. All right, I'm out of here.